Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of Small Business Spotlight. Not Spotlight, sorry.
That works too.
Man, can't talk today. That's a great start to this whole thing. Good thing we're live and everyone's seen this. So today I have one of my favorite people to refer today, Lisa Nguyen with SmartBean Bookkeeping. Lisa, thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Drew. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. So Lisa has an awesome company. I use SmartBean myself, and I refer them as much as possible because they're phenomenal at what they do, and I love working with them. And so I want to invite Lisa to share a little bit about her story, talk about SmartBean in general and bookkeeping in general, things that you guys can know about bookkeeping that you may not know as a business owner. And so with that, Lisa, I'd love to hear more about what got you to start SmartBean.
I know we catch up a little bit before this, and I was asking how personal are we going to get into this about starting SmartBean. But I think it's important just to be authentic about it. I actually started SmartBean during probably the hardest period of my life when I was just, going through a divorce and try to figure out like what can I do to still be there for my kids and make money to be able to support them. And, I don't know if you know much about my background, but prior to SmartBean, I had a payroll company that offer payroll HR services. And so I had that company for a long time as an entrepreneur. But then at that point, the company was already acquired by somebody else. And I was planning on maybe just take a sales job somewhere so that outside sales, so I can be flexible with my schedule. When the kids go to bed, I can work and then still be there for school and all that good stuff. But I couldn't find anything that inspired me to work. And as a business owner before, I would hate to hire. I didn't like hiring people who weren't inspired to sell for me, and so I don't want to do that to somebody else. So I did a lot of soul searching actually. And I realized that what I have always enjoyed doing is working with the small business, and in terms of just like providing solutions and seeing their face light up because I'm able to lift, a certain weight off their shoulders. And so I thought back about me as a small business owner when I had my payroll company, what was some of my struggle? And believe it or not, it was bookkeeping. And I'm like, my business was so simple with the payroll. I had like maybe 5 vendors. Everybody paid me electronically. I don't have any receivables. And I was always late in my bookkeeping. Like every time I sit down and do my book is like I had 6 months worth of it. And then I was just sitting there forever. And I did hire bookkeepers too. But the way bookkeeping traditionally, the bookkeeping industry is being managed or run by individual bookkeepers like sole proprietor that maybe have 10, 20 clients at the most, and they come to the clients maybe every other week, maybe once a month. Some people don't actually look at their books for a year, when they have to file their taxes. And
Right.
so I was actually in the same boat when I did try to outsource. I did try to hire a bookkeeper, but the problem is every time, she come over, I have to spend time with her and explain to her my business and then go over the transaction with her. I'm like, this is, this not a good use of time or money for me. So then I take it back in-house, try to do it myself and fail every time and feel bad about myself because I'm like, I should be able to do this, right? So I knew that was an issue. I didn't know much about the industry, to be honest, that much. So I did a lot of research. I go to conventions, I did a lot of research, and I realized that there is a huge need for bookkeeping for the small business. And I'm talking like micro businesses, business that, sole proprietor type of businesses, S Corp, single owner, small partnership type that try to do the books themselves, right? And so, and this is because the software company like, QuickBooks or Zero, they have been very good at, for lack of a better word, brainwashing people, that all you need is the software and then you can do it yourself. And to be honest, like I think a lot of my clients could actually just maintain the book themselves. But whether or not it's a good investment of their time, that is very clear that is not. Like, you want to spend 80% of your time with revenue generating business activities, and 20% of the time on administrative. And usually the bookkeeping is the 20%, but then you don't get to it, right? Because you have so many other priorities. So I knew that, and I wanted structure. I know that part of the reason that small business don't hire bookkeeper is because they can't afford it, because it can get really expensive. So I know that I need to tackle those things. And so I realized at the end that a good bookkeeping service for small business has to have like meet three criteria, right? They have to be consistent, because that's the main thing. So books is not, you don't keep the book just for file taxes, right? Just you do the book so that you can look at your numbers, you can know what's going on with your business and adjust accordingly. So consistency is important. Control, right? Because you want to be able to still see what's going on, because otherwise if you just give your books to somebody and you look at it once a year, you never know if it's correct or if they even know what they were doing. So you want that control. You want to be able to own your data, being able to log in, see what's going on. And lastly would be the convenience, because if it's not easy, you're not going to do it. That's just how it is, right? So that's kind of how SmartBean come up with, is I want to make sure that the way we structure SmartBean meets those three things, and like above all is accurate and is affordable. And so we started SmartBean with a mission that we want to revolutionize the relationship of small business owner and their numbers. And so we do that by making it easy for them to stay on top of their financials. So we provide daily accurate bookkeeping service. That's kind of a really long answer to your question.
No, I love that answer. I love it for so many reasons. So first of all, I love that you took time to say, okay, what did I need as a small business owner when I was one, right? So you're looking at the market and saying, what does the market need, right? What do they need out there that I can provide? And that's a great way to look at it. I think people look at it from the other point of view, where it's like, let me look at what I'm good at and then find the market after. And it's like, that's not bad, but it's not effective. Not as effective as saying, what does the market need? And then can I provide something for this? I think that's awesome. And that's really, really cool. And the other thing you did that I love is that you took the time to research it. Again, you're too busy to or not too busy, but like too in their own heads about like, I'm going to jump in and just like do this and like sing it, do it. And that works sometimes. But at the end of the day, it's like, you got to do some research, like have some kind of understanding of what the field looks like. What are you getting into? What's the market look like? What are your competitors doing? What can you do to differentiate yourself? And, and you define your business based on that, right? So that's really cool, and it's a great approach, and it's the way entrepreneurs approach things, right?
Yeah.
The third thing that you mentioned that I want to cut you off.
Oh no, I was just saying that even with all that research that I did, where we are now compared to my original business plan is so different. And that is the key that I love to share with people who are starting out, is always be evolving, right? Don't get stuck in that one. I mean, yes, you hear the story about somebody have an idea and then they, now it's go to market and an IPO and now they are billionaires and all that. That make the news because it doesn't happen very often.
Exactly.
Normal entrepreneurial business, life is all about you keep having to look at what you're at, adjust, look at what you're at, and then adjust. And ultimately, you still want to make sure you're clear about your mission, right? Your goal, so that you're still going at the same destination that you have set out to be. But the journey there is changed constantly.
Yes, I love that too. So I mean, that's number 4 and things that I loved that you said, because it is about evolving. It is about changing it, and like, especially if anything in the last 2 years has taught us anything, it's you got to evolve. You got to change with the times and try to build your business and pivot when you need to, because otherwise you're just not going to be successful long term. Like you said, those stories are like, they're sexy, they're fun, they're amazing because they don't happen that often, right? It's not. If it happened all the time, then it wouldn't be news. But the other thing that I wanted to highlight is that the time question. And you said that's really, really important, that I want to stress it, is that as an entrepreneur, or as a business owner, yes, you could do a lot of these things yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
But is it a good use of your time? And
Mm-hmm.
that's the question you got to ask yourself, because you'll spend a lot of time. I mean, and I have clients who have this mindset of like, oh, I'll save money, or say I'll save money by doing it myself. Yeah, you'll save a couple bucks, but you'll waste hours and hours and hours agonizing over things, double checking things that a bookkeeper or a website developer or a marketing consultant, these people already know the business, and they'll take a tenth of the time to do what you would take 5 hours to do. They'll take 10 minutes to get this done.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing. And so
The
that's
80-20 rules, always. I remind people of that so much because it has worked. It's literally, I apply that to everything I do in the business setting. And this is technically my second, third business, right? And what I've learned, I'm in my 40s now, and my very first business I started when I was in my late 20s. And how different it is, the 20 years different, is that I'm so much wiser now about starting. I'm not as stressed out as I used to be with my other business. And the main thing about it is, that if you do the research, right? So do the research, so you have a good plan, you put some numbers together, you have some benchmark that you need to check out, but at the same time, trust the process, that you're going to have your ups and downs, but ultimately you're going to be okay. Things will work out, right? But what you want to be, for me personally, everybody's different, but for me, is my time with my children. And so I hire more people than maybe I should, or I outsource more things, but it's because I'm trading money for time, right? Because they only be this age for so long, and then they're off to college, and then I have all the time in the world. But you know what I mean? So I'm very much into that, where you need to decide what is important for you, because it's so, as entrepreneur, like this, Drew, is that it's so we get excited about opportunities. That's why we're entrepreneurs, right? So, and when you're in the business and in this arena, people come to you with ideas, and you're like, oh my God, I can do that. Like, I can totally run that business and turn it around and, help people. But you have to say no. And you have to know your limit. You have to know that you have a limited amount of time. And so what can you delegate? How much money are you going to make more? And it's never 5 minutes. People always tell me, oh, it's going to just take you 5 minutes to do that. I'm like, it is never 5 minutes, people. Trust me on this, especially when you don't have the proper training or the equipment or the tools to be doing, let's say, design a website. Like,
right.
I can.
That's a good idea too.
Yeah, but I not a good use of time. So.
Yeah. And especially when it's a good idea. If it's a good idea, you're going to want to spend even more time on it. Even if it is like initially 5 minutes, it's going to take you, you're going to get invested, and you're going to want to grow that. And then now that becomes a whole nother business to grow and then build on the side.
Yeah.
And we have two massive businesses, right?
Yeah.
So I love that, because time is, I tell people all the time, you can always make another dollar. You can never make another minute, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's an equalizer to a lot of us, right? But it is also, you hear people who are like serious entrepreneurs, where they set up businesses and then they can just manage it from afar. And I am slowly learning about that, right? But it's all about being able to hire good people so that you can lead to do that. But you guys, don't expect to be becoming at least for me personally, I know that right now there's things that I can do, but it takes time. So you have to be careful about your commitment, because unless, though, I do know investors that are more about, hey, I'm going to invest in 10 things, and then if 3 of them are successful, I'm good. Right? And I'm like, okay, great. I'm so glad you have that luxury of money and time to do that. But a lot of us don't. Like all my eggs are in this one basket with SmartBean, right? So I don't know. I think a lot of people are more on my, at least with my clients, sharing more of my where I'm at, is that they start a business because they are good at what they're doing and they don't want to be reporting to somebody, and they know, or maybe they're working for a boss that are like, oh my God, I can do so much better than that boss, right? Or run a better company. And so they start their business and put everything into it. And so you have to make that work, but always have a board of advisors, I would say, like an informal board of advisor, have a business coach, right? The business coach have the connections of, they've seen it a lot. They've seen different industry. They talk to experts and they know what you need. And my thing with the business coach, I always say, is it's very lonely to be an entrepreneur. It's like, it's lonely to be the boss. Like, I'm the boss being at SmartBean. It's lonely. I have a beautiful team that are dedicated and I chat to them every day. But when you're the boss, it's a little different. And so having a business coach is kind of like having a partner that you can talk to, that understand and be supportive. So I always think that, small business should really consider having a business coach or somebody informal that can act as your coach, right?
Yeah.
To share that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, holding people accountable and being that sounding board people can bounce ideas off of, and just like share, hey, it's
Mhm.
been a rough day, it's been a rough week, whatever. Here's what's going on with me. What can we do to make it better? I
Yeah.
guess you said that's not something you can always share with your staff, right? It's not
Mhm.
something you can always do that with. But no, I love all of that. I think that's great. And like you said, it's about finding the people, the key people, because people make the difference, right, in organizations.
Mhm.
And I had this conversation with a client today. He's looking to hire someone, and he was like, the quality of candidates we have, like, do you have any interview questions that you'd like to ask? And I'm like, well, one thing I always try to do is I think skills can always be learned. You can always
Mhm.
learn skills, but
Mhm.
personality, drive, that
Yeah.
that fit, that can't be learned. So
Mhm.
I always focus on fit. I always focus on like the personality. Who's the person behind the resume, right?
Yeah.
Because the resume is like you can have two identical resumes, two totally different people,
Oh,
right? And
of
it
course,
could be an
yes.
amazing fit, or it could be a really horrible fit. And
Mhm.
so it's really about the people. And so I love what you said about that, and I think that's huge.
Yeah. And like I usually mention too is, if possible, when possible, have a group interview,
Mhm.
and it doesn't have to be formal. Like for SmartBean, before we decide to hire somebody, we always invite them to our daily team meetings. It's a very informal. We want them to go in there and see how they interact. And I gotta tell you, every time I went, every time I went against the team's decision,
Mhm.
because I'm like, oh well, maybe they have an off day and you guys just didn't see the good side of her or this and that. I was always wrong. Always, always wrong. So learn from me, people. If your team say no, listen to them, and that's not a good fit. And yeah, and I have to admit, recruiting is not one of my strengths. I was lucky enough, though. I think like God was helping me with having hire some really great key employees. Um, that are now the leaders of my company, and they then hire for their team, and that's how it should be, because they know that they can manage their team so much better than what I think their team needs, right?
Yeah.
So but it's important to have that few keys employees. So if you're lucky enough to get some of those key employees, the leaders, that you turn them into the leaders of your company, then you're set. You're good. I'm good. I'm so happy with where we are right now.
I think a big part of that though, is also your personality as a leader, because you're not like an insecure leader who's like, oh, I don't want you to usurp my power. I'm afraid you're going to take over or whatever. Like, there's so many
Mhm.
insecure business owners out there who are afraid of like people being a threat to them, right? And when
Yeah.
you're secure in your leadership and you're vulnerable and you're authentic in who you are, and you trust your team, that's huge.
Hmm.
Right? You can admit when you're wrong. You can admit when like you just said you're wrong about it. Like, that's huge for a lot of companies, a lot of business owners to hear, because they don't feel like they can do that. They feel like they're showing weakness if they do that, and that's not the case at all. And so
No, not at all. Yeah. I often said, I tell our clients, I'm like, I can review your books with you and give you some insight about where you are with your numbers, but you do not want me to be doing your bookkeeping daily.
yeah,
My team is so much better. And like they have, you hire them because, and it's, I understand it is very difficult to let go and trust, because like we said, small business owners, we put all eggs in one basket. And so this is your baby, and you worry about giving your baby to somebody else, right? Like even
Yeah.
if just for a babysitter, you want. So I understand the struggle with that. I really think, Drew, thank you for the compliment, but for me, it's almost like by default, because I have no time. I want to spend time with my kids, or I don't have a choice but to just let go and trust. And I'm just lucky enough that I have a good team to trust, to delegate to.
I think that's the difference between like an investor and a business owner, though, right? The investor is kind
Mhm.
of like, okay, here's money, go do it. I review your business plan, looks good. I trust you. Let's
Mhm.
try it and see what happens. Understanding it's a risk, right? The business owner, though, is the one who's like in there. You can't have your foot in like 5 different boats, right? An investor can put their money in different boats, but you as a business owner are in one boat and you're
Oh
focusing on,
yeah.
you know.
Everything is in there, yeah. And so the passion is great, and that's why for me, I always try to work with small businesses, even for my vendors, right? If all else is equal, I want to, even if I have to pay a little bit more and have less features, I still want to work with the small business, because
Yeah.
I just love like the entrepreneurial spirit, and we just connect so much better. Because seriously, I feel like entrepreneurs are just a special breed, and there's a lot that we have in common, and it's just so fun to be talking and bouncing ideas and looking at their books. And I actually really enjoy that part of my job, where we do year-end review or quarterly review or whatever. Anytime our clients want to look at the numbers, or they are about to make a big decisions, they reach out to us. Our monthly fee is a flat rate, right? Our clients can call us anytime. We're open from 8 to 5, East Coast time, even though we have employees from all over the US, and only US based though. So we don't offshore any of our work. But the clients can call with help anytime. We don't bill them by the hours. And then for review and things like that, anytime they want to schedule with me, they can do that. When clients, and I love this. Like one of our clients actually just recently, she was looking to sell her business, right? And then so she was reaching out. I reviewed the numbers with her, and I'm like, "Have you talked to your CPA?" She's like, "Oh no." I'm like, "No, you really need to talk to your CPA, because we want to make sure we handle the tax ramifications of the sales and structure it correctly." But I
Right.
love being that person that our clients come first for anything that relating to financials, because we can see the whole books, right? We see all their income streams, where it's coming from, all the different expenses, and so we can really have a good pictures to be able to provide them with the numbers. I love it. I love doing that part of my job.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, entrepreneurs are totally, but we're built differently, and it's a different
Mhm.
you have when you're talking to a bunch of entrepreneurs. Like I walk into conversations, I can be like have a crappy day and be super tired. If I walk
Uh-huh.
into a conversation with like another entrepreneur, I
Yeah,
will be in that conversation. I will be super energized and
I
like
know. Yes.
feeling like, yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Like it was
I
really
love the energy, right? The energy that you get. And that's why I said you got to be careful, because it's so tempting to commit yourself to think
yes,
it's
yes.
fun and exciting, and your ability. Like you can do it, right? It's just the time limitation is what that's the tough one to
Yeah,
figure
if we didn't
out.
have to sleep, if we didn't have to sleep, then we'd have so many. There's no
Yeah.
right?
A good news for you though, the older you get, the less sleep you need to have. So I used to need a lot more sleep. Now I get up really early in the morning, and I get that time on my own. But I remember, like in my 20s, tell me to get up at 5 o'clock. Oof, that's a huge challenge. So those young people, if you guys are getting up at 5 now and start your day, you're gonna be just fine. Wow.
I'm
I
nowhere
need to
near
do
5
that.
a.m. That's not.
You
That's
get up
not.
at 5. You're not an AM person. No.
I'm not a morning person. I'm not even a little bit of a morning person. I'm a late night person. I go to bed at like 3 a.m. But
Oh my God, Drew.
because
My concern is, if I go to bed at 3 a.m., I would look so much older. So that's all very vain, but that's what motivates me to go to bed early every night.
well, hey, whatever works. I mean, I just can't sleep early. I'm a night person, so I'm very productive at night. but I
Yeah.
can't go to bed earlier. So I mean, and now I have international meetings that end up being, that works out nicely for me at this
It
point.
works
But
out, huh? Yeah. Now
yeah.
that. Okay.
But, so I mean, so one of the big themes on the show, like I told you, is kind of talking about people and the value of people in life, right? And so I kind of give you a little bit heads up about this one, but it might be a tough question, but I love asking it anyway. Who are
Yeah.
some influential people in your life, in your journey as an entrepreneur, or even before? You know, who are some people that maybe like your top three, or even top one if you don't have three, people who influenced you in your life?
Yeah, I know you prepped me for this, and I still don't have an answer. So I think that because I do like to take time to reflect a lot. And, that 5 a.m. morning routine that I have is I do take time to reflect, and that's my time, right? To
Mm,
do that. And so to say one person that influenced me would be pretty difficult because I usually just kind of review, what happened the day before, what happened, I take time to do that. And so it just all, I wouldn't say influence me, but more so as to inspire me, right? And so I find inspirations from my team, or from clients that I talked to the day before, what they're up to. So every day I find inspiration. YouTube, believe it or not, I listen to like YouTube videos, and it inspires me and it keeping me like on track. But if I have to just pick one person, I would say it's Sue Eggert. She was my manager at when I was at ADP, which was like
mm.
it was my very first sales career. Sue was just an amazing boss, and I learned so much from her. And how I carry myself nowadays, I still sometimes I catch myself. I'm like, oh God, I'm just like Sue. Luckily, she is just a wonderful lady. So yeah, I would say it's Sue.
That's awesome. Well, that's cool. Well, hopefully she'll see this at some point and appreciate the fact that she inspired you. But that's awesome, Lisa. That, you shared some awesome, really incredible stuff and like nuggets that I don't think people fully understand unless they are a business owner how important what you shared is. But if you've watched this so far, I would encourage you to watch it again and take notes, because that was everything she said was spot on. As a business owner, you want to make sure that you're taking care of yourself and looking at the time you spend on your business and how you're
Mhm.
allocating your time. Outsource. Look for folks like Lisa who are passionate about small businesses and also can deliver some amazing value and can get that stuff off your plate so you can have more time to work on your business.
Mhm.
Lisa, anything you want to leave folks with last minute thoughts, anything like that as we close up here?
No word of wisdom. Just, love what you do and be kind to the people around you.
Love that. I think I couldn't say it better. I'm going to end with that. So everyone, thank you so much for
Thank
tuning in
you.
today. If you like this video, hit the like button, hit subscribe, share this with someone who it would be valuable to. And yeah, leave a comment below. If you have questions for Lisa, feel free to reach out to her. We'll put her information in the chat, in the description below on the YouTube channel. And yeah, thanks again, guys. Thank you, Lisa, so much for taking the time. And yeah, we'll be in touch. We'll talk again soon. Take
All
care, guys.
right. Thank you, Drew. Bye.